Hello again, Edmund Pinion back with another knife fight for you. And today's competitors are the Columbia River Knife and Tool M21 versus the Zero Tolerance O200. Now the reason these are going head to head is because of things like similar materials for the handle, similar blade shape, similar deployment, lockup, clips. Both have 4 position pocket clips, which is really nice. Now, my opinion, I'm gonna go for the ZT, but again, like all other knife fights, I leave this up to you to decide. I will give you what I feel are the pros and cons of each one. So let's talk about handles. They both have G10 handle scales. They're pretty thick on the Zero Tolerance, and I love this texturing. It's textured very well. And on the CRKT, it's your normal checker texturing. It's not very grippy, but it's still nice. They both have full stainless liners that have been milled out to save on weight. Of course, the ZT has much thicker, robust liners. The CRKT has these thinner liners. And so, deployment, you could use the flipper on either. They're not assisted, they're just very fast deploying. Before I get into the blades, let's talk about locks. They both have liner locks. Of course, on the ZT, you got a much thicker lock. On the CRKT, you have a thinner lock. But the advantage of the CRKT is that it has the auto locks system, which engages a secondary lock that keeps the liner from closing. So even though the ZT has a much thicker liner, I'm going to be a little bit more confident with the CRKT's lock, having that safety. Can it fail? Yeah, but it's probably going to be less likely to fail than the Zero Tolerance lock. So I have to say the advantages to CRKT on that one. Deployment, they're pretty much the same on deployment. I would give an advantage to Zero Tolerance because you can use those thumb studs if you don't want to use the flipper. On the CRKT, thumb studs are just not very easy to deploy quickly, and they're mainly there as the stop pin, whereas the ZT has a dedicated stop pin right there. Blade shape, they both have these modified drop points that have some recurve to them. ZT has more of a recurve. CRKT has a slight recurve. And both versions on these are partially serrated. As far as serrations, I think they both have very good serrations. The scallop serrations on the O200 are very good. And these VEF serrations on the CRKT are also pretty good. Ground very well. Now the grinds on the blades, you have a flat grind on the ZT and a hollow grind on the CRKT. So this gives one an advantage over the other and vice versa. For instance, the CRKT has a thinner tip, so it's not quite as strong for stabbing, but it's much better slicer in my opinion. ZT, on the other hand, has a very strong tip, so it's going to be excellent for piercing, but not quite as good at slicing. It can still slice, don't get me wrong, it's just not as easy to slice with as a hollow ground, in my opinion. They both have a black coating. Now, I forget what the coating is on the CRKT. It might be titanium nitride, which is a pretty good coating. Tungsten DLC on the Zero Tolerance is a great coating, so I give the advantage to CRKT or sorry, to zero tolerance for the coating. Now, blade steels, you got 154 cm on the zero tolerance, and I believe this is 8CR13 MOV on the CRKT. So that means this is going to be easier to sharpen, and it will hold a moderate edge and have fair strength. But the 154 cm is going to be much better in all those areas, and corrosion resistance as well. So another advantage to zero tolerance. Now, price-wise, CRKT wins on price because you're going to get this much cheaper than you are going to get the ZT. Comfortability, they're actually both pretty comfortable. I would have to again give the advantage to zero tolerance. Has much better ergonomic grip, just fills the hand and feels very comfortable. But the CRKT still surprisingly is comfortable, quite comfortable. Safety wise, they're both pretty good for safety if you're going to stab with these knives. Probably a little bit more with the CRKT because you have that double hilt that really keeps you from going forward. So that's probably a much safer knife locking wise, and also, you know, stabbing wise. And the thing is, if the lock happens to fail, you're gonna have that hilt bang into you before you get cut. Same thing could be said about the zero tolerance as well. CRKT is much lighter in weight. It's a longer knife when opened. Slightly longer, but it's much lighter in weight. You know, has the G10 drilled out and the liners. So it's a fairly lightweight knife. Zero tolerance has a lanyard hole. CRKT does not. If that happens to be a problem for you. For me, it really doesn't matter. They're both quite easy to adjust. You have a flathead for the CRKT, and you just have this nut here that you can adjust on the ZT for tension. But they don't need to be adjusted right now. Centering, zero tolerance centers, the CRKT does not, but no rubbing on the liners. They're both good for deployment. So yeah, thing is, you know, it depends on what you're looking for. I think they're great tactical knives, either one. But you're gonna get a lighter weight, cheaper as far as price goes knife. You're gonna get a lot more safety features, such as the auto locks and that double hilt. And with this, you're gonna get a stronger tip, better coating, better blade steel, better, more comfortable grip. And I think frame-wise overall, the frame is stronger in the handle, but the lock is probably going to be stronger on this one thanks to that safety. So yeah, there's my knife fight. So you decide. Thanks for watching. God bless.